Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business. I am your host, Catryn Becker. On this podcast, we interview entrepreneurs, we interview business executives, people from all different walks of life to learn about what they have learned in their career and how it can apply to you and to your business. Today, I have the immense pleasure of having Jen Gaudet here with us. She is a TV host, an entrepreneur, an investor. She's got her start in sports medicine and human performance. She's an incredible woman. I'm so glad and lucky to call her my friend, and I'm so glad to bring her here onto the show. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just going to have you introduce me always. That was so lovely.
That I would be honored. I will just walk around with you and just like be the announcer, like for the king and queen, right? Like do 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 do. That would be a fun job. So, Jen, like I said, you have done so much in your career, and I would love to hear a little bit from your perspective of what that was like to get here to this point. I mean, kind of what was your thought process as you moved from new thing to new thing? Because change can be scary and it stops a lot of people in their tracks.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really wish I could say I had it all planned out and it went exactly according to plan. And that would be a lie. So I guess the best thing to say is I started sports medicine when there were not a lot of women in the field. And so as a result, I had to fight harder, try harder, do more, learn more, be better, do everything better than everyone else just to get a chance when I started in sports medicine. And the reason that I talk about this is not from the negative side of it. Like it's totally good. I understand. I live in that world. I lived in that world. But it taught me just tremendous work ethic and persistence. And you said like a lot of people can't move through fear. Well, I knew that I was going to be the doggone best at what I did. And so I was willing to do whatever it took. And I was going to knock on doors until people gave me a chance. And I literally did. My first chance, I was like, give me your hardest case that has failed in everything else. And let me prove you that I can actually make this happen. And so that kind of experience teaches you a lot about life. It teaches you a lot about digging deep and what you stand for. And I just wanted to help people. Like I wanted to get people better, faster, doing the things that they loved because I believe in quality of life. And so I think that set the stage for everything. And I'm going to say something, and it may be woo-woo a bit. If people are listening, you can take it how you will. I've always had a game plan and where I want to go. I make a plan every year. And by the end of January, by the end of the first month, opportunities have arisen that I didn't even know or didn't dream possible. And I always say yes if it feels aligned and it matches my values and who I am. And so if you look at the trajectory from sports medicine to coaching to speaking on stages all over the world to author to TV show host, everything that I'm doing now, I didn't even know to dream. But I did say yes when I felt like I could help another human being, when I could make a difference in another life. If it was aligned, then I said yes. And then I had the persistence and the moxie, and I learned how to fail early. And so I think that's the theme of the trajectory and how I am where I am. But if you're like, well, how did you get to TV? Like that was never a dream of mine. Just was an opportunity that showed up and I said yes.
I love that so much. And it's such a great reminder of the power of yes. I mean, we forget because we bring in our head all of these scenarios, all of these what ifs, all of these, woulda, coulda, shoulda, this could go wrong, this could go right. But one of the things that you said that I really want to touch on, and it's totally okay if we go woo-woo. We've had all sorts of guests on this podcast. We talk about all sorts of things. Even had a sex therapist on once. So that was really some.
We're not going to get that hot in here.
Yeah, it got a little saucy. I'm not going to lie. But what you said in the beginning about when it wasn't something that a lot of women did. And, I came from engineering. I understand what it's like to be the only woman in the room in so many different scenarios. From your perspective, like looking back, 20 years, would you still do things the same way that you did them then? Or would you have made any modifications?
So it was more than 20 years ago. So thank you for that. It's closer to 30, but if I had it to do over again, I honestly think, Catryn, that I would do pretty much the same things because it was what was required. In the 1990s, you had to do those things if you were a female in sports medicine. You just had to. And it was because we had different hurdles. But knowing what I know now, the one thing that I would carry through on the personal side is I would draw a firmer boundary on my own. I hate, like, it's going to sound like my own femininity, because I had to become a man in that space. I had to act like a man. And business is the same way. A lot of the negotiation table, sometimes, like most of the time, I'm the only female at the table. And so, like, you get into this, I'm going to say, a persona, and it becomes a part of who you are and how you, like, it's this behavioral conditioning, right? You have to be a certain way. I would find a way to hold on to a little bit more of my femininity, because I had to downplay my female assets in sports medicine to avoid the negative aspects of it. You know, I mean, you're in a room of hyper males, things are going to be said, they're going to listen and pay attention to the wrong things. There might be some inappropriateness. And so I did everything I could to downplay my femininity in the workplace, and it bled over into my personal life. As a result, I wouldn't let men open the door for me. I was like, get off of that. I can do this myself. Like, it swung the pendulum so far because I had to be that in my career. And so I would find a way to maintain the feminine more in the personal life, because I think that was a tremendous detriment. And I've had to relearn that over time. And it's been quite a journey. And I know that's not business, but I mean, it's very real.
It is very real. And the only reason that I feel like women have to do that is because of business, you know, to be seen as equal. And, you know, here it is, 2023. We know that women don't make nearly the same amount as men doing the exact same job. And even though it's something people have been talking about, it still exists. And I know, starting my career, watching the other women that were there, I saw them have to do that. I saw them have to become so much more of their masculine side. And, you know, let's be real, everyone has both sides, right? I mean, you have your masculine energy and your feminine energy. And I agree that I think it's much more easy for women to swing back and forth in between the two energies than it is for men.
I don't know. It was really hard for me. Like, I had a really hard time receiving. Like, I still, to this day, presently am challenged with when somebody compliments me, especially somebody I look up to or value their opinion tremendously, and they give me a compliment, or they give me an acknowledgement. I don't know how to receive it. I struggle receiving still now. I've gotten over asking for support, but I'll say, like, it's been a 30-year challenge.
I'll still give you 20 years. Don't worry.
I'm not saying that most women do. I think maybe it depends on how far you swing to one side, how easy it is to come back. Because I think I was really living in that. I have to downplay that I'm a woman. I have to be very strong, very assertive. I have to be loud. I have to, be forceful. And so learning that receiving again has really been a challenge. And that I was not that way before I entered my career.
Right. It's a taught skill or, behavioral pattern that we emulate. So I think it's good advice for women, no matter where they are within their journey, that I think there is a place for both, that there is a balance that you can find in a very strong woman without being too much on the masculine side.
And, quite frankly, in business, if a woman gets good at the foundations of business, and we are actually better suited to collaboration. And so I truly believe that the feminine side is where the collaboration lives. And when we can collaborate together instead of trying to, like, climb the ladder over and step on toes and like knock somebody out to get to where we want to be. I think that is actually the direction that business is heading in the future. I think we're going to see a lot more of that moving forward. But that's just Jen's opinion. That's the disclaimer. This is not Catryn's ideas.
No, I mean, I have a daughter, you have a daughter and a granddaughter. Like, there is that sort of legacy of, what are we handing down to them? What is going to be, their reality in 20 years from now. But that aside, going back to, again, the first part where you were talking how you didn't even know to dream about being a TV host, which I completely understand. I never had a dream of being a podcast host until someone suggested it, and our mutual coach. And I was like, oh, that could be really fun. I love talking to people. So what was your process like, and what advice do you have for people on how to dream big when you don't even know what the goal is?
I think that's an excellent question. And as somebody who's a high performer, and I'm just going to use this caveat, most entrepreneurs and high executives, we are high performers. We don't get to those levels without being one. And as a result, high performing individuals were very action oriented and results driven. And so we spend a lot of time achieving, if you will. We're achievers by nature. And so we set a goal that we know we can achieve, or maybe it's a little bit of a stretch goal. And the first time I was challenged with this, and this is a great story, actually. I was at a coaching conference. It was 2017. And I said, I have this dream. I believe that, access to healthcare, clean water, nutrient dense food, education, I believe that's a basic human right. No matter where you live, no matter how much you make, I think that's a basic human right. I believe that, but I'd never done anything or put myself out there in a way that would make a huge impact in that space. It's just something that I'm always like, well, I'm in medicine and I'm touching lives here. And that's something that's too big, too great for me to even think about. Well, my coach back then said, Jen, you do the things if you set a goal, you knock it out, you achieve it. You said it, you achieve your goals way faster than what you did. That means you're not dreaming big enough. Who the heck said you couldn't be the person who actually moves that initiative forward? And he challenged me to speak on the stage, and I was speaking on the stage on something different. He says, throw out what you were going to do. Tell everyone in this room, it was like over 1,000 people, what is it that you believe in? What is your mission? And see what happens. And so I did. And like, I was like sweating. I don't know if you guys have ever done something like, I can usually speak on a topic. I have no problem being on stage, but like when I care about it, like, I'm like, oh goodness, the sweat was pouring. I was like hyperventilating, and I got there and I said it, and I was not confident when I said it. Like, I know my body language because it was scary because I cared about it that much. And I put it out there, and I exit the stage. I couldn't go to the ladies' room. I couldn't go anywhere. Like, I literally was inundated by people who were trying to connect me in ways that I can make that happen. And long story short, I get on the airplane and go home, and I sit next to the person who opens the door for me to go do exactly that. Like, that's magic. That's putting it out there with 1,000+ witnesses and not being afraid to put it out there. Having the dream, putting it out there, then the how comes. This lady sat next to me on the airplane. She's a mover and a shaker. She connected me, and I found myself as a part of a medical exchange team doing exactly that. Clean water, kitchens in hospitals, electricity in hospitals, like that. I didn't know to dream, but I was challenged to do it. So it was scary, and I didn't know how to even set I don't know how to reverse engineer something that big. And that's where I said the woo comes in. Like, it was magic. What are the odds that you sit next to the person who is going to put you in the space that you can do exactly what you needed to do or what you feel called to do? And that's been everything in my life. And what another coach of mine said, and I truly believe this, is if you're not failing, that's a clear indication that you're not dreaming big enough. You're not showing up big enough, because the only way you're getting to the next level is by failing big. You have to be able to put yourself on the ledge if you want to get to the next level. And I'll say this, anytime that I'm trying to get to the next level in business or in life, Like I have to do something that makes me sweat, that I don't want to do, that's uncomfortable. But when it's done, and like, even if I fall on my face, I mean, God, I have forgot my name on television. I failed huge. Like, I don't make little mistakes now. I make big mistakes, but I always know if I'm not making mistakes or I'm not having failures, that I'm not dreaming big enough. And so as a high performer, we can't quantify that, but we can look at what is and is not happening. If there's not little fails going along the way, then I'm not uncomfortable, which means I'm not growing.
Well,
Does
and
that answer your question?
it totally does. And it also brings me back to the education system that we currently have, because we are not setting our children up. I know I wasn't, I'm not seeing it for my kids that are school age, to be comfortable with failure. It's not seen as, this is part of the learning process. This is how you grow. This is how you change. This is how you iterate. It is seen as like, you failed, you're done, the end. And I feel like it's such a important topic to discuss and be okay with, because you're not a failure until you quit.
Mm-hmm. Or give up. Yep.
So how do we teach that? How do we let other entrepreneurs and in business executives, leaders in their field, do you think they got there because they understood that, or have they only gotten that far because they don't understand it?
I honestly well, so I'm going to say that I'm not going to generalize, and there's probably a bit of both. But I think that people get to where they're going to be by doing everything that it takes to win. And it's an athlete mindset. And I can speak from experience. I became top in my field by hiring people to do things and teach me things that were cutting edge that no one else did, to set me apart. Like I literally was willing to cross lines in so far as, hey, look, traditional medicine isn't going to get you where you need to be. You might want to consider acupuncture. And let me tell you, in 2001, like in medicine, you don't talk about acupuncture in medicine, and you don't talk about meditation, or you didn't talk about any of the integrative holistic side of things. But I was willing to say, you know what? If we're really going to deliver that next level human performance in sports medicine and healing, we need to explore some of the alternative things and modalities that traditional medicine isn't providing. Because when we bring that to the table and we take a holistic approach, we've got something that other people don't. We do it better, faster, more efficient than they do. We win the business. So it's having that winners and that athlete's mindset. What's going to give me the 0.01% edge? So I think that as athletes, we fail. How many times does a gymnast do a skill before she's able to stick the landing? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. But if she wants to be on that podium at the Olympics, she's going to pick herself up and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going until she sticks it. And then she's going to practice some more. And so I think the most successful in business do the same thing. They just do it in business. I'm going to try this product. I'm going to tweak this message. I'm going to just show up and show up and show up and show up and take 99 no's. And when I get that yes, and I have that proof of concept, then I'm going to drill down and I'm going to take it to the next level. So I don't think that it's a skill set inherently. I think it's from I'm going to do what it takes to win. And if I fail, that's a part of the process, as opposed to like thinking about it and understanding it on a like human level. And I think that's a skill set that can be trained personally. You know, we train it in athletes.
Well, and using athletes as a metaphor is so apt in this case. And it really does bring in kind of the next evolution of, okay, let's talk about that gymnast who is falling on her butt over and over and over again until she sticks the landing and makes it to the Olympics. Then what? What do you do next?
Yeah, so I've got chills because this is something that I personally am navigating through personally and professionally, right? You achieve all these goals, people look at you and they're like, wow, you're so successful. But on the inside, I'm like, no, I'm not. And the same thing happens because that gymnast goes and she makes medals. She gets all the medals. She leaves. Does she just all of a sudden quit because she's been training her whole life to get to that stage, to get to the Olympics? What happens when you've achieved your goals and blown them out of the water? If you don't have a purpose that's deeper than what you are actually achieving right now, if it has become all of who you are, it's really a scary place to be. And I'm going to liken it, and I know you like the analogy of the gymnast. I'm going to liken it to retiring from a career. because I left medicine and switched. And I thought it was gonna be no big deal because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm doing coaching and it's very similar. And like, I thought that it was gonna be okay. And I would be lying if I didn't say that it took me 2 years to get okay with it. Was I making money? Yeah, money is not the end goal. I identified with that piece of me, that sports medicine piece. That was a locked up part of my identity. And so when I achieved everything I could achieve and I no longer could go any further with it, then the what's next, it kind of kicked me in the butt. And so if you're here and you've achieved your business goals, where I'm doing and how I have navigated it and how we've navigated with our clients has been, okay, you did that. It's time to recover and take a step back and reconnect with your purpose, because, you know, we all have a cycle of active and achievement, but even athletes have an off season because they need to recover or they'll break down.
Sure.
So we treat it like I've wrapped my head around this, and this is real recent, like the past week, because I just went through this in my business journey as well. I've reconnected with, well, why do I draw breath? Why do I wake up? What gifts do I have that I have a responsibility as a human being to other human beings to deliver? And so I dive into that, and I may not have exact clarity today with what is next for me from a goal setting standpoint, but I do know that I am going to continue to impact lives, and every decision from today is how many more lives can I impact and in what way. So when we reach that, we have to draw back on, what is my purpose? Who am I at the core of my being from a human standpoint? And then assign that, whether it's athletics, whether it's business, whether it's in a relationship, and ask ourselves that core question: what's the purpose for this relationship? What's the purpose for this business? Right. And so that's kind of how I'm navigating it currently. I've navigated it in the past. It's hard. You've got a lot locked up in the goals that you're trying to achieve. Like, you know, it's funny. I've interviewed quite a few really successful entrepreneurs, and this is something with millionaire, right? People who have bootstrapped and they've never hit the $1 million mark. And all of a sudden they're $1 million business, and annually, not a million over all the time, but they're $1 million business. They've never had $1 million in the bank. And now they're looking at it and they didn't even realize that they got there. And it might've been their life goal to have $1 million period, or to see it or know it, or to see the digits on the bank account. Right.
Right.
But it's anticlimactic when you get there. You achieve these goals, it's anticlimactic, because then you think about it and it's like, it's a process. I just showed up, I did all the work. You don't even realize when it happens. I have clients who've been millionaires for a year or two before they even realized they were millionaires. And it's because you have that goal, but you don't pay attention to the details. You just keep showing up from that purpose. And then all of a sudden you're surprised, and it's anticlimactic because you set this life goal to be a millionaire. And then all of a sudden you're there and you're like, well, okay. Because it really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. What matters is our impact with other human beings. So I think to answer the what's next question, it's really what is it that's your unique gifts, and how dare you not share it with the world?
And I know you've probably seen this with your clients as I have with mine. So many of them don't even know what it is that they want. And I think I've done a lot of reflection upon this. And for me, what I've come to is that I feel like when we get these big ideas, just like you mentioned before the stage, you were sweating, right? You had this big thing that was gifted to you because of your unique gifts and skills, who you were meant to be, that you knew that that's where you were going. But if you had shared that with maybe just one or two people, and it's not their goal, it's not who they are, and people give you the negative feedback saying, oh no, you can't do that. I mean, what is that quote? Like, the crazy ones, or the ones that are crazy enough to change the world, are the ones that do. I think about that quote a lot, and I think about how it is crazy to someone else because it wasn't given to that someone else. So how does someone overcome that and really like hone in on what their mission is?
Yeah. So first things first, what other people think of you and what other people think of your mission, your vision, your purpose, it's none of your business. I think that's the number one thing to come to terms with. And it's hard. It's hard to accept that what other people think is meaningless to you. But it comes down to what other people think. If there's naysayers, entrepreneurship is hard. Life is hard. We have no space for negative people. So I would say the first thing to do is to call the people who are negative. They don't get a seat at your table. Life is hard. If people don't have your back, no matter what, whether things are good, whether they're bad, whether they're meh, if people don't have your back, no matter what, and support you, no matter what, then we need to tuck their chair and just say, you know what, I'm saving the seat for when you get to a place where you can support me like that, because life is too hard and business is too hard for the naysayers. And when you are trying to find your purpose and you're doing the reflection, there's going to be kickback, but it has nothing to do with you. What I've learned and what we've seen for many, many years is it's not a reflection on us. It's not a reflection on us expressing our vision or our mission. What it is a reflection on is their own limitation, their own stories, and their own faulty belief systems. And really what's happening when it's people that's close to us is they're afraid that we're moving on and they're not coming along for the journey. They're afraid of, if we up level to the next level, what happens to the relationship? Maybe they're not good enough. Like, it's their own issues that are presenting in that negative feedback. So when we get it, it's hard to do, but we need to let it roll off our backs and understand that they can either love us unconditionally and we can love them for where they are, if it's somebody in our personal life, but we're not going to talk about business with them because that's not the table that they sit. And so it's choices, and it's culling our network and culling our circle really to the people who support us no matter what and encourage us to always be better. And that's one of the hardest things I think that I've done as an entrepreneur, human being, is having to let people go, because they've gotten me so far and I've been friends with them for so long. And I want so much for them to just like get out of their funk and get to the next level, but I can't want it more than they do.
Right.
We can't want it more than they do. But the reason that negative comes is because they just can't see the vision, or they don't want to do the work, or they're afraid of what will happen to the relationship. And so it's our responsibility to say, you know what, if you can't get on the Catryn train or the Jen train and be supportive, then I'm gonna relegate you to the caboose. And when you can get back on the Jen train, then we're good. We're pals. We'll untuck that chair and you can come right back. But we have to call the people, and we have to be very, very careful with the energy that we surround ourselves by. And that's a woo-woo word. That's fine. But like, if we're with a bunch of people who don't have vision and aren't moving and shaking, then it's going to hold us back and anchor us to who we were before. And we're never going to be able to find our clarity. We're never going to be able to find what's next if we're swimming in the, toxic soup.
Right. Isn't that the interesting, like, duality, like the paradox of, as humans, we want the community, right? But then also it's still a solo journey. It's something we have to face alone, and finding that balance is such a delicate balance. So for you, before we wrap things up, how do you find people to sit at your table?
That's a great question. It's an ongoing journey, and I am always thinking about who are the 20% of the people in my life that bring me 80% of my joy and satisfaction. It sounds clinical. I was a clinician for way too long.
It's your DNA. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just who I am. But, I look at the people and I ask myself, which relationships bring me 80% of my joy? And if it's not in that group of people, then I slowly have boundaries set, and you can set a boundary in a way that doesn't put them off of their own journey. But think about this. If you are not having a positive experience in a relationship, for example, what are you bringing to that table? Because if they're not bringing joy to you, then you're not showing up your best self, and you're not giving your best self back, because your cup's not filled. And so you're actually doing those people a disservice by keeping them in your circle. So I'm always asking, like, if people are not 90% supportive of me, no matter what, doesn't matter if it's personal, professional, whether I'm succeeding, whether I'm failing, doesn't matter what I'm doing. If they're not 90% supportive of me and bringing me joy out of just a conversation, then I'm like, thank you for inviting me to lunch. I really appreciate your offer. I would love to spend that time, but quite frankly, right now I have other priorities. Have you tried contacting ABC or or I can somebody else because that's the nice way to do it. It's setting a boundary with your time, your space, and your energy, and we just have to do that. We have to do that as human beings so that we can grow. I mean, I wish there was an easier way to put that, but when I'm looking for people, I'm like, are they positive? When I meet you for the first time, am I jazzed? Are you jazzed and excited about what you're doing? I don't care if you're taking out trash for a living or if you're on television or if you're, like I don't care where you are in the spectrum, but if you're jazzed about life and you're excited about helping other people and I get that energy for you and it's a positive interaction, then I give you another chance and another chance. And some of those end up at my inner circle. I think it's a convoluted question, but the other thing I'm always looking for is who is where I want to be and who's the next step beyond that. So that I always have people that are where I want to be and beyond where I want to be or beyond where I think I want to be. Cause like we said earlier, I never know where I'm going to be. I always look at who's next, and I have them at my table even if I have to like have some spent for that, whether it's a mentor or a coach or just whatever, if I have to pay to be in their presence, I'm fine with that because that's going to keep me moving and striving to what I want to be. And, a bunch of people who are, I liken it to this, if I'm the smartest person in the room, then I'm in the wrong room because I'm not really learning and growing as a human being. And I'm doing a disservice to everybody else by enabling them along the way. So it's always a duality there. And so I'm always looking at who shares my values, shares my beliefs, has very similar structure, and is at the next couple of steps in the journey. And I'm finding them and seeking them out. And the same rule applies. If we have a conversation and it's energizing to me, and they're excited to be alive and excited about helping people, then we continue. And some of them become inner circle and some of them don't. And that's kind of how it shakes out.
And it's all okay. And I think that's the main message. Thank you, Jen, so much for sharing your wisdom with the audience. I really appreciate it. I think there was a lot for the listeners to think about and to apply to their own lives and see where they can make some changes. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure.
What is the best way for listeners to get a hold of you?
I like LinkedIn. I would prefer a LinkedIn connection. And the reason why is because my email is inundated. I'm on television and everybody has access to my website. It's constantly full. So I like the LinkedIn. I've taken over my messenger. So send me a message on LinkedIn and let's have a conversation.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here, folks. So if there's anything that resonated with you and you would like to reach out to Jen, I will have her link for LinkedIn in the comments. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being a part of this community. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe and share with your network. I appreciate you for being here. Until next time.